Imagine spending an entire decade, literally 10 years, meticulously cultivating a garden of the world's most delicate, promising seedlings.
Right.
You've got the perfect soil, the perfect climate, and you're just waiting for them to bloom. And then a new head gardener arrives, takes one look at your seedlings, paves the entire thing over with concrete, and parks 4 heavy-duty bulldozers right on top.
Which is, frankly, exactly what is happening at Real Madrid this very second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Welcome to this deep dive on Bernabeu Notes. Right now, it's mid-June 2026. The World Cup is dominating the front pages. And look, if you watched Spain's incredibly frustrating 0-0 debut against Cape Verde, you saw exactly what happens when an aging midfield just hits a wall.
Yeah, Rodri looked totally gassed trying to break down a low block, just completely out of pace.
Oh, totally out of pace. But while the whole world is distracted by the tournament over in North America, there is an absolute systemic earthquake happening behind the closed doors of the Santiago Bernabéu.
An earthquake that is happening at warp speed, by the way. I mean, they are moving with a level of aggression in the transfer market that we haven't seen in over a decade.
Yeah, and our mission today is to decode this. We are breaking down the hostile takeover of Real Madrid's transfer policy by their new manager, José Mourinho.
It's a complete demolition of an identity.
It really is. We are going to get into the mechanics of how the club's traditional rule book has just been shredded. We'll cover the financial trickery of their massive summer spending, the extreme tactical gambles, and how a severe legal bottleneck is actually paralyzing half their roster right now.
Because by mid-June, they haven't just made a few signings. They've completely changed the genetic makeup of the squad.
Which brings us to the most jarring reality of this new era. If you followed Florentino Perez's strategy over the last decade, you know his obsession is buying teenagers.
Right. Oh, absolutely. The Vinicius, Rodrigo, Endrick, Bellingham model.
Exactly. Last year, the average age of a Real Madrid summer signing was 21.5 years old. Now, let me read you the ages of Mourinho's 4 new recruits. Denzel Dumfries is 30. Bernardo Silva is 32.
Wow.
Marc Cucurella is 28. Ibrahima Konate is 27. The average age is suddenly nearly 29.
Almost 29. I mean, you really have to understand the psychological break that represents for Florentino Perez.
It's massive.
For years, the club's strict financial philosophy was built on immense resale value. You buy a generational talent at 18, and, you know, if it doesn't work out, you can still sell them at 24 for a massive profit. You are buying an asset.
Right, an appreciating asset.
Exactly. When you buy a 32-year-old Bernardo Silva, you are buying a depreciating asset. There is zero resale value there. The money is just gone.
So explain the why here. Why is a notoriously stubborn president suddenly handing the keys to the vault to Mourinho to buy depreciating assets?
2 words for you.
Okay.
Title drought. Perez has just endured 2 consecutive seasons without winning La Liga or the Champions League. And at a club like Real Madrid, that isn't just a slump, that's an institutional crisis.
The pressure must be insane.
The political pressure internally is suffocating. So Perez has just capitulated. The old red lines, like strictly waiting to sell deadwood players before buying new ones, those are completely gone.
Just erased.
Mourinho basically walked into his office and said, look, I don't care what this team looks like in 2030. I need players who are ready to bleed and win today.
Wait, I have to push back here, though. Because buying a 30-year-old Denzel Dumfries for his €20 million release clause from Inter Milan, that doesn't feel like a long-term strategy. It feels like a panic buy. I mean, how is that not just going to create dead weight on the wage bill in 18 months? Previously, they would never buy a 30-year-old just to be a rotation patch for Trent Alexander-Arnold. They just promote a kid from the academy.
It is a panic buy, but it's a heavily calculated one.
Yeah.
Look at the tactical mechanics of Mourinho's system. He does not trust academy kids in high-stakes knockout games.
He never has.
Never. He demands ready-made, battle-tested veterans. He wants guys who have played in Champions League finals, who possess the specific, dark arts required to close out a 1-0 lead in the 89th minute.
Right.
He wants players who won't freeze under the immense, crushing pressure of the Bernabeu. Dumfries gives you exactly that physical dominance right this second. Mourinho is treating the season like a 9-month war, and he wants soldiers, not students.
Okay, so that desperation for immediate plug-and-play veterans brings us directly to the most explosive and, frankly, the most controversial move of these 4.
Oh, the Cucurella deal.
Marc Cucurella. He arrives from Chelsea for €50 million, plus variables. And the announcement of this deal was just A masterclass in chaotic timing.
It dropped literally hours before Spain kicked off their World Cup campaign.
Exactly. The Spanish press went absolutely ballistic, claiming Real Madrid was purposely destabilizing the national team, like distracting one of their starting defenders right before kickoff.
Yeah, they were furious.
But when you look at the actual mechanics of the player market, the reality is completely different, isn't it?
Completely different. The public perception was that Madrid was being reckless, but from a psychological standpoint, this pre-World Cup announcement actually gave Cucurella an immense competitive advantage.
Because he's not, like, checking his phone at halftime to see if his agent got the deal done?
Precisely. He is completely freed from the mental burden of the transfer market. He knows exactly where he's going to live next season.
Makes sense.
But the truly fascinating part of this transfer isn't the timing at all. It's the financial structure. They gave Cucurella a 6-year contract, locking him in until he is 34.
Wait, let me stop you right there. A 6-year deal for a 28-year-old player who relies heavily on his engine and his stamina. That seems absolutely insane. Why tie yourselves down for that long?
It's a pure accounting trick. It's called amortization. And it is the exact mechanism that is allowing Mourinho to fund this massive spending spree under La Liga's incredibly strict salary caps.
Okay, break that math down for us.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like magic.
Think of it this way. If Real Madrid bought Cucurella for 50 million euros on a typical 3-year contract, La Liga's financial fair play rules would record a hit of roughly 16.6 million euros on Madrid's books for this specific season.
Okay, simple division.
Right. But by spreading that exact same 50 million euro fee over a massive 6-year contract, the yearly financial hit drops to just 8.3 million euros.
Oh, so by adding those extra years on the back end, they instantly free up 8 million euros of liquidity this exact summer.
Exactly. That freed up capital is exactly how they can afford to just casually trigger Denzel Dumfries' 20 million euro release clause the very next day. They are basically kicking the financial pain down the road to 2030 in order to maximize their spending power today.
But listen, this accounting trick creates an absolute nightmare on the actual pitch. Because of this maneuver, Real Madrid now has 4 left-backs on the first-team payroll.
It's a ridiculous bottleneck.
You have Cucurella, you have Ferland Mendy, you have Fran García, and you have Álvaro Carreras, who they just bought back from Benfica for over 41 million euros last year. I mean, how do you even manage a locker room where 4 guys are fighting for one position?
You don't manage it, you dismantle it. And this highlights the ruthless reality of La Liga squad registration rules.
You can only have 25.
You can only register 25 first-team players. You literally cannot carry 4 left-backs. And the internal technical reports on Ferland Mendy are just brutal right now.
We're talking about his physical decline, right?
Yes. The medical consensus internally is that his body simply cannot handle playing every 3 days at the elite level anymore. The muscular injuries have taken a permanent toll on him.
But finding a buyer who will take on Mendy's wages, given that crazy injury history, is incredibly difficult.
So if Mendy is stuck, someone else has to be the sacrificial lamb.
Which points directly to Álvaro Carreras.
Yep. Xabi Alonso is currently managing Chelsea. And the tactical chatter internally is that Alonso desperately wants Carreras to replace the exact hole Cucurella just left in London.
Oh, wow.
Carreras' profile, highly athletic, great on the overlap. It fits the Premier League perfectly. But it just shows you how cold this new regime is.
Yeah, they just bought him.
They spent 40 million on Carreras 12 months ago. But under Mourinho, if you aren't the absolute perfect tactical fit for his specific system today, you are instantly expendable.
It's a high-stakes game of musical chairs.
Yeah.
But every chair costs 40 million euros. But look, you can't just buy a left back and call it a day when the absolute structural foundation of your defense is crumbling.
The center back situation is dire.
It is. Which leads us to Antonio Rüdiger. He just renewed his contract for 1 more year, but the internal tactical analysis tells a very different story from the PR announcement.
Rüdiger is a legend, obviously, but the metrics show he is in severe physical decline.
Yeah. In a low block where he can just defend the penalty area using his sheer experience and grit, he's still super effective. But Mourinho knows that Real Madrid has to dominate possession in Spain.
Which means playing a high defensive line.
Exactly. And when Rüdiger has to turn his hips and sprint backward 40 yards to cover a counterattack, the elite acceleration he used to rely on is just completely gone. Tactically, he is effectively a 4th-choice center back right now.
So Mourinho desperately needs a premium partner for Ibrahima Konate. And the targets they are looking at are top tier. We're talking about Manchester City's Ruben Dias, Inter's Alessandro Bastoni, and Borussia Dortmund's Nico Schlotterbeck.
Schlotterbeck is the one to watch.
He is fascinating because he just signed a new contract in April, but he explicitly insisted on a 50 million euro release clause. It's like he deliberately left the back door unlocked for a club like Madrid.
He absolutely did. A 50 million euro release clause for a left-footed starting German international center back in his prime. That is an absolute bargain in today's market. More importantly, it removes the need to negotiate with Dortmund's notoriously difficult front office. You just deposit the money at league headquarters and the player is yours by the afternoon.
And this is the massive elephant in the room here. They can't trigger that clause today. They can't buy anyone for the defense right now because they are trapped by a massive administrative bottleneck. And his name is RAUL ASENCIO.
This is where we see how modern squad building is heavily dictated by who you can actually sell.
Right.
Think of La Liga's 25-man squad limit like an airline overbooking a flight. Real Madrid has sold a first-class ticket to a shiny new center back like Schlotterbeck. But Asensio is currently sitting in that exact seat.
And he won't get up.
He refuses to give up his seat, and worse, no other airline will let him board their planes.
Let's break down exactly why Asensio is unsellable right now, starting with the finances. He is sitting on a massive 3.5 million euro net salary.
Huge money.
No other Spanish club, outside of maybe Barcelona or Atletico Madrid, can even come close to affording those wages. And neither of them are going to buy him.
The salary instantly prices him out of domestic transfers. You'd normally look to ship a player like that to the Premier League or, a wealthy Turkish club.
Right.
But the salary is only half the equation here. The much larger issue preventing literally any club from touching him is his ongoing legal situation.
Right, and we need to be very precise and strictly factual about this, based exactly on the legal documents that are currently in the public domain.
Just the facts.
Raul Asensio, along with 3 of his former academy teammates, is currently facing a criminal trial. This stems from an incident in the summer of 2023 where they are accused of recording and sharing a sexual video without the consent of the victims.
And if you track the timeline of the legal proceedings, the prosecutor initially requested 2.5 years in prison for this offense.
However, the latest updates from the pretrial hearings indicate a major shift. The prosecutor is now open to dropping the request for prison time, but only on the strict condition that Asensio formally apologizes to the 2 victims in court.
Right.
According to the legal filings, the victims have already withdrawn their private charges. And in Spanish law, for this specific type of offense, that withdrawal opens the door for the criminal responsibility to be legally extinguished.
Exactly. And look, we aren't here to debate the morality of the case, but we have to analyze its undeniable impact on the transfer market.
It's massive.
Regardless of whether he apologizes or the charges are fully dropped tomorrow, the mere existence of this highly publicized ongoing trial makes him totally radioactive to buying clubs.
Yeah, PR disaster.
When a club's sporting director looks at Asensio, they don't just see a center back. They see a nightmare. Corporate sponsors, strict internal codes of conduct, public relations departments, they will immediately redlight a transfer carrying that kind of legal baggage.
So Asensio is just entirely stuck. He's taking up a critical registration spot. He's eating $3.5 million in wages. And because he refuses to leave, Mourinho is physically barred from bringing in Schlotterbeck or Ruben Dias.
It is a massive domino effect, freezing the entire defensive rebuild.
It really is.
It is the perfect illustration of how off-pitch bureaucracy can completely paralyze on-pitch strategy. Mourinho might have $50 million in the bank ready to go, but Asensio's contract is holding the defense hostage.
Which means, because the defense is frozen, Mourinho is forced to redirect his focus and find immediate veteran stopgaps in the midfield instead. Which brings us to the arrival of Bernardo Silva.
What a signing.
He's 32, coming in as a free agent, and he's specifically been brought in to act as a creative interior.
Mourinho realizes that while he has incredible physical specimens in Jude Bellingham and Fede Valverde, he lacks a metronome.
Yeah, a tempo guy.
He needs someone to dictate the pace of the game exactly like Toni Kroos used to do. Silva provides that unique, cold-blooded ability to just put his foot on the ball and calm the chaos.
But integrating a 32-year-old Silva creates a catastrophic math problem for the young stars who were supposed to inherit this midfield. I mean, if you're listening to this, you're probably screaming right now, what about Nico Paz?
Oh, the Nico Paz situation is wild.
This kid just had a breakout, spectacular season He literally led Como into the Champions League under Cesc Fabregas. He was pulling the strings in Serie A all year. Real Madrid has a measly 9 to 10 million euro buyback clause. It seems like the most obvious move in the world to trigger it. Yet they are hesitating. Why?
Because of the very FFP rules we talked about earlier. Triggering a 10 million euro buyback clause isn't free. That's a 10 million euro hit to the salary cap.
Right.
If you bring in Bernardo Silva and you already have Bellingham, Valverde, and Arda Güler, where does Nico Paz physically play?
He doesn't.
You cannot activate a buyback clause on a 21-year-old coming off a breakout season just to glue him to the bench. It stunts his development and immediately tanks his transfer value.
So they are effectively putting his career on hold.
Yeah. They are playing a really high-stakes game of chicken right now. They are taking a strict wait-and-see approach based entirely on how Paz performs with Argentina at this World Cup.
Okay, so what's the plan?
If he lights up the tournament and becomes a global breakout star, Madrid will be forced to trigger the clause simply to protect the asset, even if they just turn around and sell him to Arsenal for 70 million euros in August.
Wow.
But if he has a quiet tournament, they will likely ask him to stay at Como for another year to get Champions League minutes.
It is wild to think a club could hesitate on one of the brightest young midfielders in Europe simply because they bought a 32-year-old free agent.
It's the Mourinho effect.
But the squeezing of the youth doesn't stop with returning loanees.
Yeah.
The internal tactical reports indicate that players who were previously considered the absolute untouchable bedrock of Madrid's future, they are no longer untouchable.
This is the single biggest cultural shock of Mourinho's arrival. The sacred cows are being slaughtered.
We are talking about Aurelien Tchouameni and Eduardo Camavinga. 18 months ago, if you suggested selling either of them, you would have been laughed out of the Spanish capital.
Oh, they would have called you crazy.
Now, Mourinho reportedly doesn't consider them indispensable. Tchouameni hasn't renewed his contract, which runs out in 2028, and instead of begging him to the negotiation table, the club is out aggressively scouting other teenage prodigies to replace him.
Specifically, the scouting department is heavily focused on Ayoub Bouhaddi.
Yes.
You don't know the name yet, you will. He's only 17 years old. He chose to play internationally for Morocco, and he absolutely dominated Real Madrid's own midfield when they played Lille in the Champions League.
He ran the midfield against Madrid at 17 years old. It's insane.
Exactly. And what makes Bouhaddi so special is his tactical profile. He has this incredible, almost arrogant composure on the ball.
Just ice in his veins.
He possesses a cold-blooded ability to beat a high press while standing in his own penalty area, which is incredibly rare. Tchouameni is a physical destroyer, sure, but if Mourinho feels that Tchouameni's passing range doesn't fit his specific vision for beating a modern press, the club is suddenly willing to move on and buy someone like Bouhaddi who does.
It honestly feels like Mourinho bought a historic mansion, right? He's walking through the rooms and he's hauling in these massive, heavy, vintage leather armchairs. Guys like Bernardo Silva and Denzel Dumfries.
Great analogy.
And suddenly this sleek, ultra-modern, wildly expensive furniture the club bought last year is just getting shoved into the garage because it doesn't fit his immediate aesthetic.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. He is designing a living room exclusively for today. He genuinely does not care what the house looks like in 5 years.
So as we pull all these threads together, the sheer scale of the paradigm shift at Real Madrid is staggering.
Unprecedented.
They have entirely abandoned their patient, youth-focused, highly profitable transfer strategy. Instead, they are executing a hyper-aggressive, immediate win-now mandate.
Yeah.
The squad's average age is skyrocketing. They're utilizing deep financial amortization tricks to fund veteran salaries, and established young stars are being treated as expendable puzzle pieces just to give José Mourinho exactly what he demands.
It is a phenomenal case study in the absolute ruthlessness of modern sports management.
Truly.
When a massive, historic institution pivots its entire core philosophy overnight to appease a single demanding manager, the outcome is always binary.
All or nothing.
Exactly. It will either result in a spectacular, treble-winning season, or it will end in an incredibly chaotic, financially crippling disaster.
It really makes you wonder about the ripple effects across the rest of Europe.
And that is exactly the question I want to leave you with today.
Lay it on us.
If Mourinho's aggressive strategy of buying battle-tested 30-year-olds actually works, I mean, if he wins the Champions League with Dumfries and Silva, does that completely change the global market?
Oh, that's a scary thought.
Have we just witnessed the peak of the youth transfer bubble? If veteran experience becomes the proven formula for European dominance again, the market for 100 million euro teenagers might just crash tomorrow.
That is a fascinating and slightly terrifying thought for every club relying on their academy right now. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the tactics, keep exploring the beautiful and sometimes incredibly ruthless business of modern soccer, and we'll see you next time.